The following podcast episode was recorded hours before Brett Veach made a move for wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Due to scheduling issues, me and Garett could not get back on to do another episode. Deepest apologies for that, but we do talk about DeAndre Hopkins as well as a slew of other wide receivers that we kind of also didn't want, so we are pretty happy about this move. Enjoy the episode, and we'll see you next week to talk about his impact.
So Mahomes has about as many touchdowns as Daniel Jones, and his interceptions are significantly higher. Bo Nix,
Yeah.
is
He's
about
like
there.
16th in like every statistical category, except for interceptions, where he's first, baby, has the most. So he's just
That's my
been
quarterback.
he's been playing lights out. What can we say?
Yeah, well, guess what? We're still 6-0. This is Talkin Chop. I almost just hit end recording.
Yeah, I want to just talk about that for a second.
This guy is a beast
It seems like he just rubs butter on himself.
because he had 2 touchdowns, baby.
It's actually really
Welcome
funny.
back, watchers and listeners. Yeah, I almost hit the end recording button because we've been running so many sound tests, guys. You know, we just want the sound to be eloquent and beautiful for you. Speaking of sound, poor Garett is a little sick today, but he's going to rally
I'm
because
a little under the weather. Got to push for it though. Got to push for it.
just like the Chiefs should push for a trade at the deadline for a wide receiver, we got to talk about that later. But first, our whole entire team is injured. But let me introduce, before we do that, let me introduce Garett Aimutis, offensive line coach, as always, to my right, and Jackson Steele, our stats man, who's been so helpful in these past couple of weeks, just, you know, pulling up the stuff we need. Jackson, say hi.
To your left, by the way, for those
Yeah,
listening.
I'm still confused if it's on the right or the left. I don't know how this is toning out.
You never know. You never know. It's all in accordance to David.
I guess in my real life, you're on my left, but in the camera world, you're on my right. So let's get right into it, guys. Basically, our whole team's injured, Garett,
Yep.
including
Besides defense, our
Yeah.
defense is pretty healthy. You know, but our offense just we're dropping like flies. We brought Juju in. He's hurt now. Obviously lost Rashee Rice and Pacheco earlier on, and Hollywood didn't even play a snap for us. So we're just dropping. We're dropping like flies, and it's not looking great. Not looking
well, and
great.
it is starting to infect the defense, though. We missed Mike Dana last week, and Jaylen Watson is now on injury reserve because why not? But yeah, first off, Juju Smith-Schuster already ruled out for next week against the Raiders. It was a really
Not great
early
news. Not great news.
A really early rule out for Andy Reid is rare, and he just immediately said, yeah, he's not going to play. And that's a little concerning that it's hamstring spasms. Garett, you have experience saying that stuff is a lot more serious than I might think it is.
It can vary like from player to player, and depending on severity, it's just it can last for a long time. It can be done really quickly. It's just the hamstring is one of those things that it's really hard to gauge. So they probably just immediately were like, okay, it's a hamstring deal. Probably not going to have him back because if it's a hamstring, you're not going to be back in the first week. So they're like, I might as well throw him out. Let everyone know he's not going to play. Get our next guys up, which kind of shows another thing. Cornell Powell was brought back. Chiefs homers are going to be real happy about that one. I'm sure.
To the practice squad. But yeah, I mean, listen, we had a hole because the freaking Browns, they stole Bailey Zappi from us. They signed Bailey Zappi to their active roster because they just decided to injure both Deshaun Watson and Dorian Thompson-Robinson in one game. So now they need Bailey Zappi to back up Winston.
We love seeing the fans boo Deshaun Watson as he was being carted off. That was so great. That was so awesome.
Listen, a lot of the players are coming out defending him, but I don't know. I understand the Browns fans are upset and about more than just the contract situation. Obviously, there's a ton of allegations and stuff, and
Right.
whether we know it's true or not, I don't know. I feel like you can't
I'd say it's probably true.
yeah.
That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of money paid out. But I'm happy he's gone. I never really liked him before, so even with all that stuff coming out, deserved. Just get him out of here. Give some other guys some chances. I saw, old Jameis, he can be popping up back in there. So
he's
that'd be
making
fun.
the Browns relevant in fantasy, which already should tell you everything you need to know. I mean, honestly, this is just the curse of the Browns. By trading all those draft picks for Deshaun Watson, they kind of deserve to get a bad Deshaun Watson, I guess.
Baker did everything for them, and they just threw him away. And I think it's deserved because Baker was doing everything he could to bring that organization out of just the slums that they were at the time. And he did. He brought them back into relevance, and they were just like, you know what? get him out of here. And he's doing great on the Bucks right now, so I'm happy for Baker.
Well, and since the Browns took Bailey Zappi from us, we replaced him with old familiar face. I think he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion, if I'm not recalled, at least a 2-time Super Bowl champion. But Chris Oludukin, welcome back to the practice squad, man. Hey, if familiar face knows the offense, maybe play some scout team.
And like we talked about a lot earlier, practice squad players are really important, especially right now. You never know when you're going to be brought up. So,
except wide receivers, I have to assume we're going to elevate a wide receiver this Raiders game this Sunday. Like, we're going to elevate one of our own practice squad receivers. It'll probably be Nico Remigio or Justin Ross, but like,
I'm hoping it's Remigio. I think he'll play pretty well. I think
we might honestly elevate both for all we know. But I mean, hey,
because if one drops, we might as well have another one out there, right? So
yeah. And speaking of active roster moves, Keith Taylor, apparently he played at Washington with Trent McDuffie. He is now on the active roster. He was a preseason standout. He did really well. And honestly, he had really good years with the Panthers, which says a lot because the Panthers are horrible. But yeah, Keith Taylor,
good
welcome to the main
McDuffie,
team.
So
I actually kind of like that. I mean, before when he didn't make the team, I was like, yeah, let's give our younger guys a chance. But now it's like younger guys are stepping up. We're going to talk about Chris Roland Wallace later getting that interception, playing
huge clutch
slot
play.
Corner. But
huge
yeah,
clutch
I mean,
play.
Our young guys are stepping up. And honestly, these defensive injuries seems like Spags is really plug and play in that secondary. I mean, he always has been, but especially this time. But what's not been plug and play has been the wide receiver position. Garrett, last week you brought up the really funny point of the Leonardo DiCaprio Brett Veach thing, where Veach loves.
It's true, man. It's true. And I said in that comments, I was like, I said what I said, and it's just true. We don't go after guys that are getting to the point of a certain age, or at least Veach is, and I think it's not beneficial to us, especially in times like this where it's right before trade deadline, and really the pickings aren't really that fruitful right now in terms of that position, especially in that age range. And I think even if we went a little bit past that, I think we'd have some availability there, but it's all up to Veach. Maybe he's thinking right now, hey, we're fine right now. We're 6-0. I really hope that's not what he's thinking, because we obviously need some guys to go out there and make some plays. Speaking of certain players not making any impact with more than 50% of snaps played, Sky Moore.
He still has 0 catches on the season. He has 3 targets. And like, I always joke to my friends, but it's a sad reality. Wanye Morris and Patrick Mahomes have more receiving yards than Sky Moore.
And they're all catchable balls. It's not like he has 3 targets and they're sailors, right? They're right in his hands every time.
And it's not like Sky Moore is not playing either. He's played a lot. He's been out there.
50% of snaps last game.
That's
no catches. I think 1 target. That's it. It's just, and he's not getting open. Mahomes doesn't trust him. We just need to have another guy out there.
And honestly,
we have a list again. We've talked about a lot of receivers in the last couple, but it's relevant. It's the kind of stuff that we need. So we got a list.
I mean, and funny enough, I think the NFL trade deadline is actually on Election Day. So, very, very impactful November for the world, I guess.
The world.
NFL.
Yes.
The NFL trade deadline is on the same tier as the United States presidential election. But we have a list of guys under 30 challenge for, meeting Leonardo DiVicchio. We have some fun targets that were thrown around that are also young. And then we have our over 30 guys that are, I feel like better fits, but here we are.
It's Vicchio, so what can we say?
But first off, let's do it again. Deontay Johnson, man. I love this pick if we get him. Last year of his contract, we talked about him so much, done a real little less to say about him. It just makes perfect sense. I mean, Garrett, what do you think? I mean,
he's a really great contested catch, and that's kind of what we're missing right now. Just like a bigger body that can come down and just sit in the right spots, get a ball, and just make sure we're just getting down the field, right? I think we're just kind of missing that intermediary guy, and I think Deontay Johnson really fits that well. He's cheap. He's playing on a team that doesn't really have a lot of aspirations right now, so that's kind of a bigger point in terms of availability. But hey, I would be pretty excited if we got him.
He kind of reminds me of Rashee Rice, but like a smaller build, but just like kind of eating up zones underneath, and then like a good,
really physical guy too. Really physical,
and he's fast, and that does what we want, I guess. Darius Slayton, Garrett, What do we think of Darius Slayton? He's
Not a big
27 years
fan.
old.
Not a big fan of Darius
There's
Slayton.
been a lot of there's been a lot of Chiefs Twitter rumblings of wanting him, and I just don't see it, man.
I don't see it.
The Giants have replaced their wide receivers very often, and he's been one of the only mainstays, but he's been a mainstay that's had like minimum impact. Yes, he had a couple good games. He is so streaky. He is one of the streakiest wide receivers that you could possibly get, and he's more of a deep threat. I don't see his intermediate passing game. I don't see his underneath passing game.
It's like, could it be due to bad quarterback play in New York? Maybe,
but when
it's just,
Wan'Dale Robinson
his skill
did
set
well.
isn't really what we need, right?
And
it's I think we
Wan'Dale-
have that down the field speed and that down the field coverage. I just don't think he has the skill set that we need right now. So,
speaking of someone who here's a guy with a skill set I do think is going to be good for us, Christian Kirk, but he is so expensive now.
very expensive.
Now, the Jags are definitely going to be on the seller's market. They already are. They sold their defensive tackle to the Seahawks, but I don't see Christian Kirk in their future. They just drafted an absolute stud in Brian Thomas Jr., and they still have Gabe Davis for 3 more years, which is kind of crazy. But
I guess they could eat up a lot of his contract if we traded with him, but at the same time, it's like we've
That's
talked
gonna
about
cost
before.
us more.
Are they going to give us better deals? Probably not, especially us.
Elijah Moore on the Browns. The Browns just had a huge injury at wide receiver. Elijah Moore saw an uptick in targets. I think he had 10 targets in this game. And Elijah Moore did, okay with it. He got a bunch of stuff underneath. He's more of a, kind of a slot guy too.
He's just another guy that has had a lot of opportunities in different situations, and he just hasn't really taken advantage of those situations. And I mean, he was great coming out of college, and I just don't think he's kind of lived up to that same hype. So once again, could that be, in regards to him moving around a lot and being just in a lot of different weird situations? Yeah, but he
honestly,
could be good with us. You never know.
I think the Browns killed their wide receivers production, because I think once Winston takes over, we're already seeing it. Like Cedric Tillman, who was a highly touted draft prospect, all of a sudden has a 12 target game and goes off when Jameis Winston takes over and DTR takes over. So Watson's really hindering a lot of the production there. So Elijah Moore probably, could be better, but he's cheap. Cheap and young. It just feels like Kadarius Toney trade all over again, but that's kind of what Veach likes to do, especially with the Mecole Hardman trade last year. Jalen Hyatt, another young guy I don't want because he's just a deep threat.
He's also just not good.
If you can't get playing time on the Giants, I don't really want you. I mean, let's be honest. Like
if you were struggling for playing time on like the 49ers, yeah, I'd understand. But you're struggling for playing time on the Giants.
We have Jalen Hyatt at home. We have Mecole Hardman. It's about the same player, and we
just need to keep Mecole Hardman on the roster in case we play the Niners in the Super Bowl again.
Yeah,
he's the game. 49ers killer, man. He just locks in whenever we play San Francisco.
He had a good game doing exactly what he needed to do, and that's jet sweeps and underneath stuff. Here's another guy that I liked in the offseason and found a home in New England, but hasn't really gotten to play much, and that's KJ Osborne. He's a veteran guy, but veteran in the sense he's like 27 to 28. He's had some great seasons on Minnesota. Maybe New England gets rid of him, but I mean,
I don't know.
It just doesn't excite me.
Compared to the other names on the list, I just it's a bleh. It's a very bleh name, bleh pick.
You know what does excite me though? T. Higgins. But guess what?
That's
false. That's false excitement, because I don't even know why that's even getting floated around in the rumor mill. He is not coming to the Chiefs. The Raiders said that they're not going to trade Devontae Adams to the Chiefs. The Bengals are not going to trade T. Higgins.
He would see that phone call and he would see Veach's name pop up, and that Bengals GM would just laugh. He'd just be like, ha, ha, ha. Click, just hang up immediately. Just like, yeah, good try, buddy. Nice job.
Yeah, there's no way that's going to happen. I mean, we had our shot at drafting him instead of Clyde way back when. I wish we did it, but you can't. I also don't like chasing after people that you regretted not picking, because I think that's just a loser mentality. You take your loss, move on, go draft somebody else, get the players you want, don't live in the past. And I don't think Veach is losing too much sleep about missing on T. Higgins. Now, here's a guy who's probably losing a bunch of sleep because his quarterback hates him and the Jets suck, but Mike Williams. He is 30. So I said under 30, but I put this in the 30 category.
He's floating right there,
Yeah. I don't know about this
I
one.
don't
He's
know.
kind of injury prone. I mean,
Both these like right on the numbers guys with Mike Williams. It's just like, I don't know. Is it really worth it if we go out and spend capital? Because it just depends if they cut him and we can get him for free. Might as well give him a shot, right?
If we cut him, I would like to take him. If we trade for him, I would be disappointed.
Yeah,
a guy I would trade for that's 30 though, Demarcus Robinson. I would trade a 6th round pick or 7th round pick swap for him, and I'd be happy with it. I think I
don't know. We've talked about before, I just feel like we can really hit on a 6th rounder, and I don't want to spend it on a 30-year-old D-Rob.
Ironically, for these next fun guys that we're about to get into, I would rather give up a 1st round pick and get a star than give up a 6th round pick and get a like mediocre middle of the road wide receiver.
Agreed.
That's just a plug and play guy. Because honestly, our 1st round picks, besides McDuffie and Karlaftis, have been kind of streaky.
Mid.
Yeah. And I mean, Veach really values his draft picks. Maybe he should value his 1st round draft pick a little less and go off and trade for Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson, because Garrett, I would love Chris Olave, who I think might actually be on the trade market now. There's rumors of him potentially being part of the he hasn't really lived up to expectations in New Orleans, but he's shown consistently that he could be a wide receiver 1 in this league. And honestly, the Saints are kind of blowing up their season.
I think it's kind of crazy to say, but I feel like it'd be more realistic to get Wilson over Olave.
You
which
think
is
we
weird
would
to
be
say.
more really? You think it'd be more realistic to get Garrett Wilson? Why is that? I mean, honestly, the Jets are also horrible, but I think they still think they can win.
I don't know. I just feel like the Jets have guys in certain positions that can at least fill that slot, whereas the Saints, if they get rid of Olave, who do they have? Right?
Yeah, they have no one. You're right.
They don't
do
have
no
anybody.
one.
So I just feel like Wilson would be more realistic. Do I think either of them is realistic? Probably not. But in terms of one over the other, I feel like it would be. I could see us more getting Wilson over Olave.
Yeah, they're not realistic, but in the sense of like crazy outlandish trades that might happen, because it's so hard to predict what these GMs are thinking. Like, I mean, these are 2 guys I would give up a 1st round pick for. The rare exception of I actually would trade our 1st round pick for them, and I feel like they could move the needle. Now, here's another. We got our next section, which is the over 30 guys. These are all amazing options should they actually go to the Chiefs. But, Veach, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Veach doesn't want him. I don't know why. They've been available forever. Maybe not one of them.
We don't know if he doesn't like them yet, but we'll see at the deadline. But, Garrett, your favorite.
My favorite, DeAndre Hopkins. Please, if there's any time to go get him, Veach, it's now. We have nobody. Nobody. Our starting 3 wide receivers by the end of that 49ers game was Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, and Sky Moore. Go get D-Hop. How can he be worse than Sky Moore? How can he be worse? I mean, I understand, like, maybe he not put up as much production as Worthy. He's going to put up production. He'll learn the offense. He's a veteran wide receiver. He's a great presence. Bring him in. I don't see the issue.
And I honestly think he has a lot more in the tank left to give. Like, you saw Amari Cooper immediately go in and get a touchdown with the Bills. Like, I know Andy Reid's offense is complex and all this stuff, but how complex is it to tell DeAndre Hopkins to run a little skinny post or run a little, fade route and just make a play?
Solve so many of our red zone problems, right? It's just we always have struggles in the red zone because we don't have guys that can get off a press, and we have to have guys that are kind of in these deep crossing routes or just stuff that we can open up the field. But if we don't have the field to open up, we're getting stuffed, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He solves those problems.
And we tried to run corn dog again in this Niners game with Mecole Hardman. Did you see that?
Did not work.
It didn't. It didn't work because Mahomes kind of sailed the pass, but apparently Mecole tripped too. So they both messed it up. I mean, because everyone's going to come to defend Mahomes, but honestly, Mecole slipped. So I'll give him that. This one, we're actually rumored to get him, and I would love this one. Cooper Kupp to the Chiefs? Whoa. I mean, I would love this. Absolutely. Cooper Kupp has been someone that I have been saying is slept on since he came into the league as a 3rd round pick out of the most tiny school that I still can't remember for the life of me right now. Jackson, please tell me where Cooper Kupp went to school, because I forgot.
Jackson, please tell us.
But
But,
ever since
yeah.
he entered the league, I've drafted him in fantasy. He's been so good. He's so slept on, an amazing route runner, just eats up coverages and just gets the ball, contested catch. Like he does it. He's in everything wide receiver, Garrett. And I like everything wide receivers.
Obviously, the only downside to a Cooper Kupp trade would be our problem is longevity and injuries. And Cooper Kupp doesn't have the best repertoire in that side.
And also, where does he fit it in our future after this year? Because it's like, I don't think Veach is going to get a guy just for 1 year. And I think
Especially
that's why
we'd have to overpay a ton for a guy like Cooper Kupp. We'd have to overpay. And I don't think Veach would want to do that.
And I think too with Kupp and Hopkins, it's like, you know, like he doesn't want a rental. That's why he didn't want Amari Cooper. He thought of Amari Cooper as a rental. I don't think he's going to want a Hopkins. He's going to think he's a rental. And it sucks because it's like, you know, we do need someone. I am finally concerned with this. I don't think we can rush for 4 touchdowns every game. Jackson, come on and bring us Cooper Kupp's lovely college.
Not only did he go to a very lovely college, but he had some very lovely stats at this college too. He did not, in his 4 years, he had every year he was 1,000-yard receiver. Had over 15 touchdowns every year for those 4 years. Only 1 year without 100 receptions in a year. That was his freshman year. Do you guys want to take a guess
Of what college he went to?
Can we get a half of the country? East or west?
I'll give you the northern half.
Well, it
I'm
feels
gonna
like
go Minnesota State.
Why do I? It's like I thought it was like Western Michigan. No, wait, that's Sky Moore's college.
Ooh, I think you might be on the right track with Michigan.
It's like Eastern Michigan. No, it's like a red school. I know it's a red school, but I don't know which one.
I believe this is a red school. Eastern Washington.
What if it is their mascot? Like what?
The Eagles, man.
Oh yes, of course.
The Eastern Washington
the well-known
Eagles.
Eastern Washington Eagles.
Come on, man. Their
The fact-
logo literally has their college initials in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd be a great
it's a
pickup.
bird.
I just don't think we're gonna get him. He'd be very, very much an overpay for a 1 year.
I mean, we'd probably only have him for a year, but hey, how important is the three-peat, Garrett? Because these guys aren't going to come back. Rashee Rice is not coming back for the rest of the season. Hollywood Brown is going to play his first snaps in the playoffs, and Juju,
Who knows how long he's gonna be out?
Also, I might feel like the Saints game might have been a fluke. Like it really could have been a fluke because the Saints have been getting dogged on by the Broncos, and who else did they play? The Buccaneers.
They were so promising so early, and then they just fell off a cliff.
Well, they got their whole team injured. But here's the thing. We don't make excuses like that. Oh, my gosh. The 40 whiners complaining about their
Oh, my
injuries when
God.
we have almost the same amount of players injured. But they're like, yeah, but our players are better. Okay, you're still losing your wide receiver 1 through 3, just like us. We're still both out our starting halfbacks. We're out at D end and a corner. Like, you guys can complain all you want, but that list that they were showing, it had 2 kickers on it. I was like, the list is only long because there's 2 kickers injured on it.
Yeah.
So like,
I
y'all,
don't know, it's just we can come up with excuses all day long. It's just at the end of the road, it's like you got to play with who you got, and unfortunately, they didn't win with who they had, and in fact, they got blown out. So,
yeah. Well, we have one more guy on this list. Very unrealistic, but I know Lance the Spoken on Twitter keeps saying it every single day.
That dude.
It's
Not a big Lance the Spoken guy. I think I actually blocked him. I think.
Well, then, I mean, you've heard it from other people though. You know, it's Kareem Hunt. Sorry, Tyreek Hill return. That's what they want. And listen, I'd love that, except for the fact that it's not possible and not going to happen.
Not possible. Not going to happen.
Like
It's just not going to happen. And
Like,
for
it's
the
like I
people
said-
that wanted, it's like he had his chance. He could have stayed with us, and he didn't. So I don't know what to tell
it's
you.
like what I said about T. Higgins. It's like Veach is not losing sleep over guys that he lost. He's not going to go after T. Higgins, who he could have drafted. He's not going to go after DK Metcalf, who he could have drafted. He's not going to go after Tyreek Hill, who he let go. We rarely bring back the guy. He's not going to go back after Sneeds and stuff like that. He got rid of him for a reason, and you know it doesn't really make sense. And I just feel like the Dolphins aren't going to want to make us better either. You know, although they do trade with us a decent amount. I mean, but still, I just don't see it happening. Let's move on, Garrett, to the Niners game that just happened. Speaking of, absolutely blowing them out and already getting in on some of those stats.
Blowing them out in the sense of not even passing wise, 4 rushing touchdowns, first time since 2019 in that playoff game against the Colts. Just kind of like a reformed Chief offense. We haven't seen that kind of like productivity on the ground in a while. Because Mahomes has been playing he's been playing terrible. I don't know what to say. I mean, you can blame it on lack of production from our receivers, whatever. But there are times when he can make throws. We saw one against the 49ers where we had Xavier Worthy streaking down the field, burnt his man. He was three feet in front of him, completely overthrew him.
I forgot about that. I was mad at my TV for that one.
Completely overthrew him.
It was wide open.
And it's just that is not the first time. It's been multiple times this season where Mahomes has had guys open and he's just missed them. And it's unlike Mahomes to do that. Like, yeah, we're 6-0. Great. Every single guy in every single comment section, whenever you try and critique Mahomes, oh, but we're still 6-0 though. It's because our defense is playing phenomenal. We held everybody to just nothing. I mean, our rushing defense, we're bottling these running backs that have been great all year. Jordan Mason was the second leading rusher in the league. Held them to almost nothing throughout most of the game. And it's just, Mahomes needs to play better. That's about it.
And the argument that we're 6-0. Look at the Steelers from that. I think it was 2019 or 2020 season.
They're like
the
9-0,
Steelers.
and
They went 11-0. They went 11-0 on the backs of their defense. They were called pretenders the entire year. Honestly, we're doing the same thing. We're 6-0 just because of our defense. I mean, our offensive rushing production has started to increase. I love that we solved a little bit of the red zone problems by actually using our running backs and our Mecole Hardmans and our Patrick Mahomeses, even though that was not a designed Andy Reid thing that Mahomes ran in that touchdown. But no one was open, and that's kind of what we've had to do. And like Tom Brady said, terrible pass rushing by the Niners as always, where they overcommit to the backside of Mahomes to try to get that sack.
Yeah, they just leave the middle wide open.
Yeah, Nick Bosa's been caught many times over pursuing to try to get that sack, and it's costed him a lot in Chiefs games specifically. So a lot of those passions running high has caused mental errors that allowed those things to happen.
And people talk about how the lack of production from our receivers, our tackles have been atrocious all year. That's another thing that if we don't find another answer by the end of the year, this draft, we need to focus on tackle. It needs to be a number one priority. I understand we need receivers, but if we don't get a good tackle to protect Mahomes, it's going to be the same thing all over again. He gets barely any time.
And that could be Kingsley. He could develop into something. Hopefully this benching is going to really be great for his long-term career. But
even that Juwan Taylor is not the answer at right tackle. He just isn't.
We can cut him next year, which is going to be, probably what ends up happening depending on some of the moves that we make here at the deadline, or just even I'd rather re-sign Trey Smith than have Juwan Taylor. Even though it's easier to find a guard, I just think I'd rather have a quality player.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it comes down to. Purdy and Mahomes didn't have a passing touchdown that game. Isn't that crazy, Garrett? Isn't that crazy? And
then Purdy, I think, had 2 rushing touchdowns. Mahomes had 1.
Did Purdy get it? Did Purdy rush touchdowns?
2. Pretty sure he had 2.
That's where that happened.
He had 2.
Okay, bet. Thanks, Jackson. Wow, okay. So, I mean, hey, Purdy still had a good game.
Yeah, we watched the games. We understand what's going on.
I was really drunk for the Niners game this time, so...
Did you find a Chiefs local bar in
Yeah, let's shout them out. The Tavern Austin is a local Chiefs bar. I live in Austin, Texas still, just graduated from UT last year. But yeah, Tavern Austin, I reconnected with a lot of my friends there. There's a great local Chiefs community, and they're real ones. They're actually from Kansas. They're not like Taylor Swift bandwagons or like Mahomes meat riders. It's actual real Chiefs fans at that bar. So it's really nice. So yes, that's where I was watching the game. And I mean, I didn't really pay attention when the Niners scored, so I didn't know Purdy did it both times, but I paid attention when
trashing on bad players like Mahomes. Let's give shout outs to our good players, starting with Hicks with another clutch interception.
Dude, I was so excited. I was so excited because I have been on the Hicks train since we drafted him. Garrett and I talked about him in our little draft live stream. But, man, seeing a Hicks pick was awesome, especially after he failed on that punt conversion, that 1-yard punt conversion. I was like, he's going to make up with
call. It. Like, if we're going to go, just put your offense out there. If you're just going to go for it, put your offense out there. I've never understood fake punts.
Well, I don't understand fake punts when it's 4th and 1. Like, when it's 4th and 1, that's a time that you need to just power football, especially with the way we were running the ball that first drive. Like, that almost could have cost us the game momentum-wise early on if not for Justin Reed getting an interception really early on against Purdy. We had 3 interceptions this game, Garrett. It was fantastic.
And we've dropped a lot of interceptions in previous games too, so it's really nice to be able to see our DBs finally get some hands and just bring the balls in. Like, were they really great passes? No. But we brought him in, and that's really all that mattered. Especially with Roland Wallace, a no-name guy, comes out, catches a clutch pick late in the game to kind of seal our chances of winning, right? And he's just, our defense is balling out no matter who we put out there. Jaylen Watson goes down. He's been pretty great for us this year. Guy comes in, gets a pick. It's like you really can't ask for much more than that.
And an amazing classic example of Brett Veach and Spagnuolo working together, get a safety in the draft and turn him into a slot corner. Roland Wallace played all of his snaps out of the slot, really stepped up, and just that interception, yes, it was right to him, but he knew his assignment. He didn't allow more than 1 catch, I think, in the entire game too. So really great to see 2 rookies getting their first interceptions in, Roland Wallace and Jaden Hicks, the GOAT. So, I mean...
Thank you, Jackson, for that, by the way. Appreciate you.
4 rushing touchdowns, as we already touched on. Mecole Hardman had 1. Mahomes had 1. And Kareem Hunt had 2. Kareem Hunt has been looking amazing, Garrett. He's been looking almost...
He's back, baby. What can we say?
It doesn't look like he's even missed a step since he was with us. Like, this looks like exactly the same Kareem Hunt.
I'm
Maybe
still waiting
a little
for him
bit
to like pop off and have like a 150-yard game. I think it's very possible.
Yeah, I still haven't seen an explosive play yet where he's like breaking a 40-yard run off like he used to, but like the consistent running is there.
Chunk yards. He's eating chunk yards, and that's all we really need him.
Exactly, and he's been doing such a great job of that. We already talked about Sky Moore being bad, he played 47% of the snaps without a catch, and one of them was a drop. 2 drops on the season, 3 targets on the season. Still has yet to get a yard. I mean, I feel bad for the kid at this point, how much people are dogging on him. But, like, this has got to change. And I don't think his confidence...
He looked happy, though. I saw a video of him leaving the stadium, and he was all smiles, man. Dude, he does not care. He's like, hey, as long as we're winning.
I almost don't want that, Garrett. He's been given this opportunity to step up. He's a 2nd-round pick. Like, Sky, I'm glad you're happy, man, but come on, you don't have that hunger in you. Like, that was the critique of Kadarius Toney. They were saying Kadarius Toney doesn't seem to love the game anymore. Does Sky Moore love the game any more than Kadarius Toney loves the game? I mean, maybe Kadarius Toney's distracted with his rap career and injuries, but I mean, he might love the game more than Sky. Hard to say, hard to critique. We're not out there, but geez, it's just really he has some of the biggest hands in the league too. He had one of the biggest hands in the draft class and just can't bring in catches that are just right in the breadbasket. Like, I don't know.
Who needs Sky Moore when we have Noah Gray, the GOAT?
Exactly,
Noah
Garrett.
Gray has been playing out of his mind. He's filling into that role, just coming into himself, and he's just exploding into this player that I knew he could be. I loved him when we drafted him. I loved him when he was backing up prime Kelsey at the time. And he was just making these really clutch catches early on in his career. And now that he's getting a lot more opportunities, he's showing that he can be that guy. He's been playing really well.
That extension came out of nowhere, but it was well-deserved. We have Noah Gray for 3 more years now. I love this signing. I also just love seeing... He was our leading receiver last game, Garrett. That is insane to think about. And, like, Noah Gray has just stepped up in Kelsey's absence. He stepped up in everyone's absence. We need players to step up, and Noah Gray has answered the call. So, I mean, hey, he might even be worth picking up in fantasy at this point because, like, he's starting to become our featured wide receiver and hopefully has a great game against the Raiders. Someone else who I think will bounce back is Xavier Worthy. He had 8 targets this game, only bringing in 3 of them. I think a lot of them were on Mahomes and a couple of them were on Worthy. There was one where he tripped and Mahomes threw it. Yeah. And I think that was, it's a tough
But
look.
I mean, Mahomes did miss a potential like 70-yard touchdown pass. So it's like,
but
can you really blame him for that?
It's good to see Mahomes is throwing it Worthy's direction. So, I mean, hopefully Worthy gets
just needs to dial it in a little.
Yeah, I think he'll get a 6-catch game next game, and then start to figure it out from there. I'm not worried about Worthy. In fact, this was almost encouraging, but it's so close, Garrett. It's so close. We're about to get the Worthy experience. Leo Chenal continues to be amazing. Baldy's breakdowns, I love watching his breakdowns. Leo Chenal is just literally lining up everywhere. And like, we're running 3 linebacker sets more than most teams in the league with Bolton, Drew Tranquil, and Leo Chenal. And it's good to see Leo Chenal's actually playing a lot more than he was at the beginning of the season.
Yes.
I think he's PFF's highest graded linebacker right now. I think he's moved all the way up to number 1. I might have to
And is it because of our physical and athletic linebackers that we're leading, or we're not leading, but we're really high up there in terms of NFL rushing yards per game? We have a phenomenal rush defense, and I think that's beneficial to Leo Chenal because it allows him to just pin his ears back and play ball however he wants. If he wants to line up down there in the 3 tech, he can. If he wants to line up in pass coverage, he can, right? We're just forcing these teams to throw the ball, and that's really kind of beneficial to us.
And he had a really good open field tackle in this game where it was a 1-on-1 and it could have 1,000% gone for like a 20-yard gain. And then he also, in 1-on-1 coverage against Kyle Juicy Juice, had a pass breakup. So like he was doing some really, really great things. And Jackson's going to bring in Leo Chenal's PFF grade over here.
Leo is actually ranked 7th.
Ooh, he's dropped.
He was like 3rd early on in the year.
This is why we have Jackson to fact check me. What do you say?
He does have a PFF rating of 84.4 though.
Oh, it's really good.
It's pretty high.
I mean, 7th linebacker in the league in terms of, PFF grades, they're hit and miss sometimes, right? But it's showing he has a lot of production, right? And that's really all we're asking for.
It's been great to see him on this defense just emerge because I liked him out of the draft, and now he's starting to finally play, which is great. I mean, God, I love Willie Gay, but I mean, Leo Chenal has stepped up in his absence.
Now, if
for
we
sure.
had Willie Gay and Leo Chenal,
I know that
would have been
be
great.
Even cool. Because hey, maybe we trade with the Saints to get Willie Gay back.
no, imagine.
I don't know about this year. He's ranked 72 at a grade of 48.2.
Yeah, maybe he's a byproduct of Spags' scheme. Dang, what did we know?
He's a scheme chaser. What can we say?
But I mean, he was so fast and fun. But hey, he contained Lamar Jackson. But maybe that's why our rush defense is so bad, Garrett, or not so bad, but not number 1. Is because of
Lamar just went off on us that one game.
Or
but we did hold. We are pretty much the only team to hold Derrick Henry like at all. He's been lighting up the league, and we were the only team to really hold him. Like obviously Lamar went ballistic against us, but we held Derrick Henry to almost nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Derrick Henry's on pace to beat the NFL rushing record right now, which granted
as he is every year. Like I feel like that's just always the case.
But he has a extra game, which I guess kind of messes it up a little bit. But like, yeah, I mean, he's about to have a 2,000-yard season, and we are the only team that held him. So I love that for us. Moving on to surprises around the league. It's going to be a quicker segment this week because honestly, we have a lot to talk about. And honestly, it was kind of sad to just see everybody got hurt this week, Garrett.
Everyone.
I mean,
like there's us in the Niners, we are not the only team that is being afflicted with just this random NFL wheel of just injuries. It seems like it's just been like an epidemic across the league. It's just, I don't know if that's because we're playing longer seasons now. It seems like every single year it's kind of finally catching up to us, or it's just bad luck.
Well, and it's less practices before the season starts. They've limited OTAs and stuff, so there's less of a ramp-up period, and there's one less preseason game. So there's less games and then more real games. So that could be another reason, but either way.
And they're pushing to add another game.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen.
It's not beneficial to the players. Sure, you're going to make a quadrillion bajillion dollars. Great on you, Roger. But like your players are going to get injured and the product on the field is going to be worse. I don't know what to tell you.
So, I mean, we start off with like the Browns had 2 quarterbacks go down. We already talked about that a little bit at the beginning. And then you have the Buccaneers, who I actually feel really, really bad for. Buccaneers were a team that I was definitely like, you know, hey, I'm love seeing them succeed. I love Baker Mayfield. I love Chris Godwin. I love Mike Evans. I love Bucky Irvin and all the Sean Tucker story's cool too. But it's just really sad to see Chris Godwin and Mike Evans go down. And that's just, you know, that's going to hurt their season a lot.
Yeah. And talked about the Saints earlier. Pretty much their entire team is going down with injuries. I mean, it's just all across the league. I know the Jets had some injuries as well. It's everywhere, man. And I don't know how the NFL plans to kind of like fulfill this need going forward of kind of player safety and keeping players on the field. If that is adding another bye week, it'd be useful. Like we're injured right now, and we had one of the earliest bye weeks in the NFL. We have
which
the rest.
scares
We have
me.
the next 2/3 of our season before we get to playoffs. I mean, we better hope we get the first seed. We're not gonna have another bye week.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like when we first saw the draft of the schedule, I was like, oh boy, we really could use.
Yeah, we're already
later
injured
bye
enough,
week.
and we're right now getting into the dog days. So
Yeah. And quick note, Jets still suck, even with Devontae Adams. That did not solve their problems. Russell Wilson comes in and shows the Steelers.
Devontae Adams lost to the Steelers twice in 2 weeks.
I did see that. That was hilarious. And also, Garrett, I've been telling you on the podcast, I think the Steelers are for real, and they seemed a little bit more for real today too. Like, especially with Russ behind the helm, that defense is really good. They're kind of a similar team to us right now too, except
Like
their quarterback
offensively, you know, they need to get it going. Defensive wise, they're just, you know, clean in house, and that's just kind of how we play ball right now.
and they don't have anyone to throw to either, except for George Pickens. And so, I mean, and their quarterbacking has honestly been statistically better than us, but you know, their run defense has been, you know, or their rushing attack has been worse. Sorry, I was reading what Jackson just said. Insert Mike Tomlin's quote about prepping for Devontae Adams 2 weeks in a row. Jackson, you're gonna come on.
I'm
here.
sure he had something really fun to talk about.
Oh, it was basically like he was asked. I don't think I heard what he was actually asked, but he was basically just, yeah, you know, that's football. Sometimes I prepped for him last week. I'm prepping for him again this week.
That's pretty funny.
I
I also
made it
like.
pretty easy on him.
I also liked his answer when they said, "Wow, what compelled you to make that Russell Wilson decision? Because it ended up being so good." And he's like, "They pay me a lot of money to make these choices." That was it. That's all he said. I was
A
like,
confident Mike Tomlin is a hard coach to beat, and
Dude,
I think he's gaining his confidence, man.
he's so funny in these interviews too. Like, I mean, he's got classic.
He has some great sound bites from every single year he's coached, so he'll just keep throwing those interviews out there. Now, he did say he has a way to counteract Mahomes, and as we talked about before,
No, that was
oh
Antonio
no, that was
Pierce.
Antonio Pierce. Sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but we'll talk about that in a second.
I mean, honestly, let's talk about that right now.
Throw it in. Antonio Pierce.
It's Raiders.
Raiders week, baby.
The
Raiders
Chiefs
week.
are playing the Raiders at Raiders Stadium, which is Arrowhead West, as we all know. And we're going to town. And if we remember earlier, they did that little Kermit the Frog video to start off their little off-season shenanigans, and they did the "I'm here" and stuff, which is funny. But
It was pretty funny.
Mahomes hit him with the "We'll handle that when it's time to handle that," and I was like, "That's pretty good." Antonio Pierce is adding some fuel to the fire by saying he has the recipe to beat Mahomes. He knows how to beat Mahomes. Garrett, it don't matter because Mahomes is not good right now. So if he beats Mahomes,
You need to
the
find
Chiefs,
out how to beat Kareem Hunt,
Yeah,
dude.
That's
what you need to figure out.
You need to figure out how to beat the Chiefs because the Chiefs defense and Chiefs offensive line interior and the Chiefs rushing attack are much better than last year's. So, you know,
And I think they're like 7th in rushing yards allowed, which is bottom 7, I should say. So
yes.
matchup doesn't look too great for him. I think we can be
Yeah.
able to run pretty hard on him.
They're allowing 136 yards a game on the ground. We're going to rush all over them. We don't need Mahomes to throw for touchdowns to win games by 2 touchdowns, as
we can
we've
get
just
Kareem
seen.
Hunt to have 2 touchdowns and throw a couple extras in there. Who knows?
So Antonio, go ahead and stop Mahomes. I know you have the recipe for that, but you're not going to stop the Chiefs. You're going to stop Mahomes. I just think that it's really funny that you could be talking this much crap when you have a 2-5 record right now. Although,
And also, we own the Raiders. We have won a playoff. We have won a Super Bowl in their stadium before they even won a playoff game in their stadium.
that's hilarious.
So,
It's just a classic. I mean, now listen, the Raiders are an interesting team because they beat the Ravens with Gardner Minshew, and then they lose to the Panthers. So I don't know. You know, like it
it's
seems
really hard
like
to gauge. I feel like when they're locked in, they're locked in. When they're not, they're really not locked in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know who's not locked in? They don't have Devontae Adams anymore. So Trey Tucker's good. Don't get me wrong. Fun fact: that's actually the Kadarius Toney pick, the draft pick that we traded to the Giants. Ended up getting traded to the Raiders, and that's who they got for Kadarius Toney. Trey Tucker's good. Jacoby Myers is injured and okay.
Okay.
You know, their offense is not going to do anything against us. Their running backs are horrible. Their running backs are absolutely terrible. I hear Jackson's lovely China in the background there.
Jackson's munching right now. You can just tell.
Yeah. But then, you know, like, what was I saying?
We're not afraid of the Raiders is really just kind of what it breaks down to. They don't really have anything that, in my eyes, frightens me at all. I think our offense is going to be able to handle them, especially in the run game. And I think our defense is really going to shut them down, which is why, in my opinion, this will be our first blowout game.
Oh, okay. I hope so. Because, I mean, we kept high score predictions recently, but it just hasn't hit. I think it will now. I mean, 28 points against the Niners is really promising, honestly. But I do remember what I was going to say, that you're right, Garrett. They're not going to run on us at all. Zamir White, trash. Alexander Madison, also trash.
Their O-line, garbage.
Amir Abdullah looked solid in the 2 games that he got touches. They don't use him, so I'm not worried. And I'm definitely an Amir Abdullah homer. But still, the Raiders are they? You know what? Strong prediction: Raiders are going to get under 30 total rushing yards in this game. They're not going to run the ball at all. Like, they have one of the worst rushing attacks.
How are the wheels on Gardner? I don't think he has wheels, does he?
Well, they signed Spencer Ritter, combining 2 bad quarterbacks together. They signed Desmond Ritter to their active roster, so
like
we might see him
a just in case kind of signing, right? Like just throw him in.
They've been doing some weird crap anyway by benching, you know, Gardner Minshew.
These owners and like head coaches just like hate on Minshew for no reason.
I think he's solid. Like, what do you want him to do? He was trying to win without Adams, and then his only target is Brock Bowers. Oh, Garrett, we didn't even consider that. Their best asset is a tight end.
They have a great tight end. We're cooked. Oh no, we're done
Dude, we allow the most yards to tight ends. Although we've kind of fixed that a little bit. Jackson, what were Kittle's stats last week? But I think I mean, the Saints don't have a tight end, so that wasn't really a test. And I think one of their tight ends did score a touchdown.
I just feel like with the amount of weapons they have, I feel like we can just put our best coverage guy on Brock Bowers and allow the rest of our defense to just play ball. And that's just kind of the best way we can do it.
Well, and also too, like, they still have, like, I mean, you know, they have Mayer too, but I mean, again, 2 tight ends. The tight end 2s are the ones that go off against us. Jackson, what do we got?
So yet again, a tight end was the leading receiver. George Kittle had 92 yards on 6 catches.
Okay, that's pretty good. So it feels like we do just wait. So that means that both the Chiefs and Niners leading receivers were tight ends.
Tight ends.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. This is going to be a game,
and neither team threw a passing touchdown.
This is going to be one of the most interesting games when you look back on it in terms of just like statistical things. It felt normal watching it, but then, like, you know, it was just weird. But thank you, Jackson, as always. Yeah, I mean, not much more to say about the Raiders other than
what's your score prediction? What are you thinking?
Okay. You know, did you remember that game where we didn't score a touchdown in the first quarter and then scored 4 in the second quarter? Yeah. On the back of like DeMarcus Robinson in their baseball stadium that they used to have.
God, dude, that was so cursed.
I'm kind of thinking that it's going to be that again. I don't think we're going to score in the first quarter. I think we're going to have the jitters. I know that they beat us on Christmas and ruined the holidays, but we're going to come with some vengeance. But it's going to take a sec. You know, Antonio Pierce.
That was with Aiden O'Connell though, so
I will give them credit though. Antonio Pierce does have our number defensively, and I think it's going to take us a sec. And then we're going to adjust and we're going to absolutely blow the brakes off them. I think the final score is going to be around, like, I think it might be 35-10. I don't think that it's going to be close. And
I'm going even crazier. I'm going 31-0. I think we're goose egging them. I think we're going to goose egg them.
That would be crazy. That would be insane. You know, that reminds me too. I don't know why you saying we goose egg them reminds me, but sorry Niners, but I forgot to rip into Anders Carlson again, because we were absolutely right about that guy. 2 for 3 in kicks, missing his extra point. You know, you can't.
Now, you know, were those points really valuable in the game? No.
Kind of. I mean, they could have been tied if they made their kicks.
We were up 18 with 2 minutes to go. It's like,
yeah, but at halftime it was a close game, Garrett. Like, they needed those points early. I think part of the thing is like, you know, you get depressed.
Man, when Jackson's being like mugged in the background, like he is just going crazy.
Yeah, you're making some noises, bro.
Are you okay back there, my man? You okay?
I'm good, but I thought I was muted.
What's your score prediction, Jackson?
I can't believe I'm gonna have us scoring the most points out of the three of us. I have us scoring 41-14.
Wow. I mean,
Okay.
listen, but we haven't
respect
scored. Have we scored over 30 points this
No.
season?
No,
But
But
the
I thought we were
The
gonna have
28 was our most.
you know the Broncos have scored that many.
Twice, actually.
I
Believe it or
think
not.
it's gonna be another good rushing attack with 4 touchdowns on the ground, though.
I could definitely see that. And you know what else is kind of funny? I think the Broncos game is going to be good. I think us versus Broncos is going to be like
It's a good
really close
matchup.
game.
And it hurts me to say it's a good matchup for us.
I think it's going to be a tight game.
Kareem Hunt's going to have 2 touchdowns again, maybe more. But yeah, I see us goose egging him.
I think this is the game Worthy breaks out. I think he's going to, have a lot of fun with the Raiders DBs.
I hope so.
I mean, Jack Jones, he did the fake out to the kid. He corrected himself, said that he was faking out an adult, actually. But you still could have gave it back to the kid eventually. So I don't know how much I believe that, Jack Jones. But
I take the over on Worthy's receiving yards every time, and it's always because of a missed Mahomes throw that it never hits. So if Mahomes can connect to him, I think he's got it.
It would be fun. I think Mahomes might have 3 passing touchdowns. That would be. I think it's going to be.
We talking 3 red zone touchdowns, or are you thinking 3 deep bomb touchdowns?
1 deep bomb, and then I think
2 red zone,
a pop pass to Worthy.
Little flip.
Yeah,
I could see that.
I might have to make a Minecraft video to predict that so it actually happens. Like last week, that was crazy that I just randomly made that video with him scrambling and running into the defender. I almost got the down and distance right too.
Dude, the Minecraft recreations of famous football plays has been going crazy on TikTok and Instagram for some reason.
Dude, I love it. It's so funny. Like Pig State,
Villager Tech or something.
Garett, Villager Tech's my favorite one. That's just such a creative one. Garett, what's your favorite MCAA team? What team do you rock with?
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
it's kind of a tough one. I think I like Moose State. Moose State's pretty good.
Damn, well, I'm your rival. I'm an Ole Moose supporter, Honestly, dude, this is the funniest thing ever, and I think I will have to make one for the Raiders. What would I call the Raiders in Minecraft? I called us KC Wolves. I know you raid villages with
the
pillagers,
dude. The pillagers.
Yeah, the Las Vegas pillagers. Okay, perfect. So there we go. Expect that video coming out soon because
other than that
was fun.
Just expect us to just dominate the Raiders, and we're always talking chop, baby.
As always, we're talking chop. Garett, get well and get healthy. Jackson, thanks for coming on as always. Any final words? Jackson, you don't got anything to say? Oh, he's muted. That's why.
He's muted.
I'm still muted. The N State Nittany Dragons.
The N State Nittany Dragons. That's crazy. Nether State Nittany Dragons. Is that what that is?
That's pretty good.
No, End.
End State. Duh. Guys, I play Minecraft. I promise. This is Talkin Chop.